SWIC. So SWIC stands for the South Wales Industrial Cluster. So it's a collection of 30 industrial partners covering a range of industries such as nickel, steel, obviously consider oil, energy. It also includes a number of non-industrial partners like councils, like Energy Systems Catapult, for example. So within the SWIC cluster, within the South Wales Industrial Cluster, there are two projects: the deployment project, which handles all the large emitters, and then the cluster plan project, which handles pretty much everyone else. We at CR Plus are leading the cluster plan. So what exactly does SWIC try and do? So SWIC essentially tries to identify the pathways to industrial decarbonisation. Now, we've sort of identified a few. So in sort of a technical standpoint, we also have our 5 steps, which essentially cover the 5 different ways we think sites will decarbonise. But at a sort of more fundamental level than just the technical details, there's also the issues of critical cross-cutting themes. So across sort of all the work packages and all the technical areas, there are some themes which intersect with every one of them. So, for example, messaging, skills and resources, R&D. But the main goal of today is to cover one of the more important themes, which is equality, diversity, and inclusivity. So, SWIC has a EDI, sort of an EDI focus within its work package. But essentially, we're trying to identify some EDI strategies for South Wales and how EDI will feed into industrial decarbonisation. So next we have a number of case studies by different industrial partners within SWIC. So I'll just share my screen again. So first off, we have ORE and Pamela. Would you like to take off from here? If you'd like to just tell me when to change slides.
Sure. Welcome everyone and good morning. I've been practicing this. My goodness, it's difficult to get in 5 minutes, so I will rush. So next slide, please. So we are the Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult, ORE, and my name is Pamela. I lead the people team within ORE. And you can see our strapline there. We're the UK's leading technology, innovation and research centre for offshore renewable energy, with our mission and some of the areas we focus on. Next slide, please. So leading the people space, we have running up nearly to 300 people at the moment in the engineering, research and sector specific areas. And we have world leading test and demonstration facilities for wind turbines in Blyth. So in the map on the right in the middle there. And you can see our people stretch from Aberdeen at the top down to Hale in Cornwall, bottom left. And the wee numbers tell you roughly how many people we've got in each of our places. Next slide, please. So in terms of thinking about the question, which was an example of EDI in practice, the area I wanted to talk about was our inclusion groups. We started off with we called it diversity and inclusion group, our umbrella group, and the group quickly renamed it. And it was interesting hearing the earlier piece around inclusion versus diversity. They said you need inclusion to have diversity. So it's now called the Inclusion and Diversity Group. And that was a sort of leap of faith of, well, 2 of us will get together and create a group and we'll see if anyone's interested and see where we go. So we now have about 30 people in this inclusion and diversity group. We meet every 6 weeks, maybe every 2 months, very informal agenda to see what topics are on people's radar. And I'm pleased to say that from that leap of faith, from those baby steps of 2 people saying we'll start a group, we now have these wonderful offshoot groups with the Women at Catapult Network, the Young Professionals Network, which started off the Young Persons Network, but they rebranded themselves to Young Professionals, which I thought was a great rebranding. We have our LGBTQ+ allies group, our interfaith group, Health and Wellbeing, and it has its own offshoot of mental health first aiders. And each of these groups, we have them open to all. So for example, we have a man on our Women at Catapult network. Our LGBTQ+ allies group is not everyone who identifies with a minority sexuality. Our interfaith group, you can have faith or none. So it's welcome to all. And really interesting, the dialogue. There's some overlap in the membership of these groups. And the purpose behind these groups was to give people a voice, to allow people to feel heard and seen. And what we do occasionally do is ask people their comfort in writing us a piece personal to them that we can share in our organisation. And one of the most powerful ones, and I'm going to read you a little from it just now, came from our LGBTQ+ allies group, and I'm going to indulge myself by reading it if you pop on to the next slide. So one of our engineers in our organisation is in a, just waiting on the next slide coming along, one of our engineers in our organisation is in a same-sex marriage, and she wrote us this just fabulous piece, so I'm going to read it. If you've ever been to a pride parade, an LGBTQIA+ night, or just love a bit of 80s disco funk, you might have heard the Diana Ross hit I'm Coming Out. I'm not going to sing it, I have no voice. For those of you who haven't heard, the famous words to the chorus are, I'm coming out, I want the world to know, got to let it show. On weekends in the late 2000s, I could be found belting out this chorus proudly alongside my LGBT+ friends and allies, having a great time. The message was clear in the safe confines of the club. I was gay and didn't care who knew. But on a Monday morning, I became a different person. I became the person who just hadn't quite met the right guy yet. The one who didn't talk about their personal life at work, who just got on with their tasks, who didn't speak out in meetings, and who had a constant fear of somehow being found out. When applying for my current role in ORE Catapult, it was the first time in my professional life that I entered a job interview and was able to be 100% myself. On being inducted into the organisation, I was delighted to find such an inclusive workplace, where sharing that I had a fiance was only met with excitement about our wedding and future plans. Now, I can't read that without getting goosebumps. And the individual who shared so openly this, and it's been shared internally in our organisation, I can't thank her enough for describing her real life experience and bringing it to the fore. And you'll see the badge on the top right, which is the Person of Colour LGBTQ+ Allies badge. We were handing those out at a recent team conference, and some people were sort of wondering, well, I don't identify with that community, I'm not sure I'll wear that badge. But the purpose of it, and when I described it, we had a great uptake, was we're taking photos at this event, and some of those photos will end up on our intranet, on our website. And that allows people who've not yet joined our organisation to see we're inclusive before they come. So someone like this individual doesn't have to fear joining a place to work. So very small thing to do, but potentially a very big impact. Next slide, please. So the value we've seen from this, we get some lovely feedback in our recent annual employee survey. In the middle there, we got 83% positive response to Catapult is a great place to work, which we're very pleased about. And some lovely quotes from people. If we take the top right one, in Catapult, I have felt and continue to feel seen and included. And that's what we're looking for everyone, to get that sense. So last slide, and just finishing on a quick tip or suggestion was our brief. The last slide shows our inclusion and diversity calendar. So if you're not doing anything as an organisation right now, write down the names of the months, have a Google of what's about there, and start somewhere. And as you can see, this is what we're working through internally within Catapult. And just to pay heedance to that, today is National Menopause Day, which is very relevant to me, having hot flushes. So happy National Menopause Day, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Pamela. So, apologies, slides just taking a little bit of time to change over. Next, can I please ask Lydia from Dragon LNG? It's again, same principle, ask me when to change slides over.
Good morning. So I am Lydia Ukronsky. I am the HR manager at Dragon LNG. If you could change slides for me.
Apologies, my laptop is just sick in a bit of slides. I think I'm asking it to do too many things at once. There we go.
So just a really brief introduction for anybody who hasn't heard of Dragon LNG. We are an LNG import terminal. We're based in the beautiful Pembrokeshire. So we receive, store and regasify LNG on behalf of our customers. Our shareholders are Shell and Ankala, and our customers are Shell and Petronas. So we contribute to, or we're able to contribute to, approximately 10% of the UK's energy supply. Our purpose, our why we're here, to provide our customers with competitive access to the UK's natural gas market through a safe and reliable LNG terminal, whilst remaining profitable and agile in the evolving energy sector. Next slide, please.
Yes, once again, so I apologize about this. My slide just doesn't seem to. There we go.
So why is EDI so important to us? You will see our statistics in a second and realise why it's so important, but to achieve our objectives. So we achieve our objectives through our people. People are everything. And ED&I has a significant impact on employee engagement, on performance, on capability, all of which are absolutely critical to a high-performing team. So next slide. So these are our statistics. Our gender split at the moment is male 81% to a 19% female ratio. Ethnicity, white British, 98%. Our average age here at Dragon is 45 years. Our average length of service is 9 years. On our leadership team, we've got 33% females and the rest male. 8% of all of our line managers are female. And on our employee engagement survey, we had 83% satisfaction score. We had 83% on psychological safety as well. So this is what our team looks like. We're not the most diverse bunch, hence why ED&I is so important to us. We are reflective of our local community in Pembrokeshire, so we do have to acknowledge that. We've got an absolutely incredible team and a great retention rate of 9 years, but we also have an aging workforce. We estimate around 12% of our workforce will retire within the next 5 years. And this inevitably is going to cause a culture change. We have a risk of losing a huge amount of knowledge, but we also have an incredible opportunity with the potential to recruit new people to a wide range of roles and bring in new skills, new experience, and different knowledge. We've got 2 aims for our EDI journey, and that is diversity of thought and equality of opportunity. So going back to Joe's presentation, we want to remove barriers. Next slide, please. So our company culture, we start as we mean to go on. So with our culture, we've been developing our core values as one of our business priorities this year. We've started our journey using focus groups from across the organisation to look at how we do business and how we want to do business. So having great values is going to help us guide decision making, clarify acceptable and unacceptable behaviours, articulate what we stand for to others. It'll enable us to manage performance based on not only what we deliver, but how we do it, and enable us to attract and recruit people who fit our culture and be very open about what our culture looks like at Dragon. It'll allow us to set expectations of others when they first step onto our site. And as part of this, our focus groups, who've been absolutely phenomenal, they have created a Walk My Way initiative as just one of the very many actions that have come out of this work stream. So Walk My Way will encourage understanding with each other, connection and inclusion as well. So next slide, please. I'm really conscious we've got so much going on in every sphere of this, but we've only got 5 minutes, so I'm whizzing through, but it's a really great opportunity for us here at Dragon. So people development is key to our EDI journey. One of our other business work streams is developing a learning organisation here at Dragon. So we operate in a really rapidly changing energy sector, and learning is going to be at the core of our ability to thrive in the future. So a learning organisation for us will be individuals and teams having a mindset that makes curiosity a key skill, role modelling behaviours that encourage a safe environment to learn where everybody has a voice. I think that's absolutely critical to EDI. We're open to new ideas, developing a creative culture. We embrace and learn from our mistakes. We don't make the same mistakes twice. And we respond to new knowledge and technology and new ideas. So as part of our learning organisation, as part of our people development journey, we've started with insights discovery, so a personal profiling tool. So we're doing that across the organisation to develop everybody's self-awareness of their own behavioural preferences so that we can adapt and connect to each other in a much more effective way. We've started with our leadership team and we're currently cascading insights discovery across the organisation. And it's a really great opportunity to get people together and bounce ideas around while we're having a really fun interactive day. We've got an LNG Excellence leadership programme, which is great and also focuses on how we should be leading people. Quite often we put line managers in roles and we don't give them the tools to be able to line manage. So on the same note, as well as the leadership programme, we've also got a line manager development programme ongoing. So we've completely redone our HR management system, all of our policies and procedures, and we're currently going back to the very beginning with line managers and looking at giving them the tools to be able to manage people. The focus on the HR management system of our policies and procedures was obviously through an EDI lens, as well as we were updating all of our documents. We've also got a new performance review process, and the difference to how we've done it previously is there's a 50% focus on our behaviours within that process. So not just focusing on technical skills, but also the how we do business, which links into our values project. Next slide, please. Recruitment obviously going to be a key part of our future here at Dragon with the change with our potential retirees over the next few years. So we've reviewed all of our recruitment practices. We look at all of our vacancies through an ED&I lens, including the wording of our adverts, where we're placing adverts. We're using social media a lot more than we ever have done, just to get get the word spread a lot wider than our previous platforms that we've used. We've done some work on making managers aware of unconscious bias, especially with the recruitment lens. We've changed our scoring methods with our interview process, and we always now have a panel of 3 people for every interview, no matter what the role, because that helps mitigate any biases within the team. We've got a significant link to local schools and colleges. We've got an apprenticeship programme. Last September, we recruited our first female engineering apprenticeship, and she is absolutely phenomenal. But the best part was there was no positive discrimination. She smashed the interview process from the word go, and she's an absolute shining star. So we want to find the best people for our roles, and that means going out into the wider community and seeing who's available and making sure that they know about Dragon LNG and would like to come and be part of our workforce and part of our culture. We've also got links to the Darwin project, so we also work through the Darwin project with really young school children to encourage them into STEM careers. Next slide, please. Remuneration review, it's an important part of the workforce. We can't get away from that, but it's also important from an ED&I lens. So we've looked at it in regards to our gender reporting. We've done a full review of our package, our remuneration package. We've also benchmarked against industry-wide data. We have got a very competitive package, but we've looked at our benefits that we provide. We've introduced a brand new and much improved employee assistance program with a lot more focus on mental health. We've also added a mental health care package to our private health insurance. So mental health has been a really key topic for us over the last 12 months, and we've created a safe environment and a really good platform to be able for people to open up and share their experiences and come to us when they're struggling. So on that note, we've just introduced mental health first aiders, and we're also developing our line managers with mental health supervision training, so that we can provide a really supportive environment, which is really important for neurodiversity. Next slide, please. So our future, last slide from me, improved equality, diversity and inclusion practices at Dragon LNG. Got a great support from our managing director, whose stance is just do it. If we want diversity, we just have to get on and do it. So our goal is to be a connective, inclusive workforce, attracting the best candidates to join an absolutely incredible team, and diversity of thought and equality of opportunity at the core. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. So next, if I can ask Peter from Valley when my laptop decides to work. There we go.
No problem. Next slide then. I'll go for quick. For those who don't know about Vale, we're a large mining corporation on most continents, mainly iron ore. Although I work for the base metals group, which is headquartered out of Canada. But Vale as a whole, about 115,000 people working. So it's a large mining organisation. Next slide. So just a little bit about Clydach and base metals. So Vale as a whole, we produce around 20% of the world's nickel supply, and we are one of those refineries that makes nickel here. We were founded in 1902, so we've been operating here for 120 years, and we use the modern nickel carbonate process. So on our site, we have about 193 Vale employees, 163 of those are in operations, 45 full-time contractors, typically making around 40,000 tons of nickel, and our main products are nickel pellets and powders. We operate 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, and sell to almost 280 customers in over 30 countries. A lot of our pellets end up in Europe and UK, a fair bit of our powder ends up in Asia, and we do sell a small amount into America, although our sister plant in Canada covers most of that. So next slide. So we, as Vale, had create a new pact with society. So this is where our EDI journey sort of comes from, and where we're from. This was in response to a few to a mining disaster we had with a dam about 8 years ago now, and we felt we needed to reassert the sort of I say this pact society and where we're going on some of these issues. Also, mining is not the most trendy of places to work and attract people. So again, a bit like Dragon LNG, heavily male-dominated workspace. So we've got targets, or we've got ambitions, I should say more than targets, ambitions to increase our gendered representation. To go from about 13% average across the globe to 26, with at least 20% women in senior leadership positions as well. Again, trying to make Vale a safer place to work or feel like working for LGBTQIA+, and really build our inclusion and diversity there, as well as people with disabilities, and look at our local talent and increase that visibility within that local talent pools we have to really get the best people here. So move to the next slide. So what have we done at Clydach? One of the first things we set up was we set a DE&I council. So this meets monthly and is a cross-site meeting of cross-site employees and management. So we opened up to all, and typically we have about 10 to 20 people each meeting coming in, and we use the meeting to discuss DE&I issues. Use it to with behavioural shares. So we'll have a topic of the month. Someone will come in with a behavioural share to sort of stimulate a conversation around different subjects. So this month we will be doing one around Black History Month and some of the and some elements around there. And we're going to raise one around how to be a good ally, and help improve that. So we have those conversations in that meeting, but also then we use the meeting to discuss issues around DE&I. So have we got the right facilities for everyone? Is PPE correctly fit in, and lots of other different topics in there. So really helping to get everyone's views and ideas forward and move that along. Also, then we have a weekly what's called North Atlantic checkpoint meeting, where this is sort of at the corporate level, where we again discuss the sort of wider DE&I activities across the business. So we've discussed a little bit around the Black History Month for what activities we're doing, but also coming up in the next couple weeks is the White Ribbon campaign, which we were involved in last year and be involved in this year, which is against domestic violence against women and that sort of stuff. So we look at that and use that checkpoint to go through there, as well as discussing again, other strategies and other things. The business started to set up some KPIs. Now, these always can be a bit problematic, and so we're trying to get not just numbers. So it'd be easy to have a KPI on how many women or ethnic diverse, or different bits there, just pure numbers. But what we're trying to do is dig a bit deeper, so trying to understand the numbers that apply in the interview, and then the numbers that get through or shortlisted, and so on from there. So trying to understand where those blockers are, where that leakage is as well. If we're getting a lot of diverse candidates coming in, applying, but not even getting an interview, why is that? What's happening? How can we make that better? And then if we're not getting the candidates, again, a bit like the earlier ones, can we write the job descriptions better? Can we do things differently? We're also working with schools, college, universities, so encouraging diversity in STEM subjects. So we work with ESW, which is a Welsh organisation around Big Bang, which works with A-level students with a project around industry, and they around STEM subjects. So the last couple of years we've been doing that, and they've been working on sort of various projects around reducing carbon emissions on our site. So they do some work, and then they go and present it in a big event. And when you go around the schools there's loads of those teams are diverse teams, and some really key STEM skills there as well. And again, it's trying to get them to understand there's roles in industry for them, because we're offering some really good students, but they, when you ask them what they want to do, they want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something else. They don't want to come into industry. So again, trying to show them that they can make a difference in industry. There's some really good careers here, and there's careers that can really make a difference to society as well, because these sort of things that some of these kids are really interested in. They want to make a difference to society. That's why they end up being doctors and other things maybe. But if you're trying to get them to understand that there's some really good innovative and interesting careers within industry that can really help society as well, so they can give that fulfillment as well. So we're working there. And the last one was a bit of reviewing of hiring procedures. So what we found, we were looking at some of our job descriptions, we were putting prerequisites in there which weren't really necessary, things we could train people. So if we had people in the warehouse, we'd end up with a huge list of things that we'd want them to have, including things like forklift truck license, but we can give them that training quite quickly and easily here, and we have employed people internally without those prerequisites before, and then train them up. So we're trying to get the job is down to some of the more core elements that are either longer to train or can't train, and things that we can quickly get training in, we leave them out, because you find that will cause leakage as well, because maybe if you ask for certain prerequisites, it almost drives a certain number of that of females or other people away, because they won't have those experiences or knowledges, but they can be trained quite easily. So looking at those to try and understand those and make sure that we don't turn people away from a job advert. I think that was all I had, actually. Yeah, thank you.
Share the screen. Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Pete. Apologies, but I couldn't see the screen for a second. Yeah, apologies, my computer's just frozen. Next, we have Tuesday from Tata once my laptop decides to work.
There you go. I think that's working now.
Yeah.
I'm very conscious of time. I've only got a few minutes, so I'll try and give a very, very brief update. So my name's Tuesday Ibbotson. I'm from Tata Steel UK. We employ roughly 8,000 people across the UK, and about 11% of our female. So it's a very male-dominated industry and workforce, and also ageing as well, so mirroring a lot of what's been said already. We're really on in our ED&I journey. You can see there we've kind of going through year one now as we go into year two. But some of the things we've done are start to create a steering group, so that's run by a director, and the senior leaders on that team, so really trying to get senior leadership buy-in. We've looked at e-learning, we've started developing that. We've not launched anything yet. We're building and piloting face-to-face sessions that really allow people to open that space and encourage that conversation, to build the understanding really and the knowledge. One of the things we have done as well is we understand that this is it's a culture shift. This isn't a HR initiative that will only affect a proportion of the business. This is a culture shift for everyone. And what we're really aiming to do is reach people, candidates especially, that haven't necessarily considered Tata as an employer before, because they've thought of it as the old steelworks that no one wants to go and work in. So a bit on that brand in there as well. So we've started to look at some networks, and we're just getting our Steel Women's Network up and running. We're starting to see some communications company-wide, and we've done some specific campaigns as well. So as I say, probably a bit earlier on than the other companies I've spoken today, but that's where we're up to. We're relaunching some policies as well now as we go into year 2. Other networks, we've got the menopause support group, so we have a very successful support group there. Our data, we've started to look at it. It's one of our priorities at the moment to try and really understand and tell a story with our data. And you'll see that as we go through the years on there. That's, we want to collect and fill any gaps that we've got as well. So just try and understand what story it's telling us a bit more. As we go into year 2, we want to see that ED&I is on everyone's agenda. Hopefully we'll start to see a natural increase in representation. We have no targets, at the moment, specific targets. We're not looking to positively discriminate, but what we really want to do is increase the representation through knowledge of unconscious bias. So hopefully that'll happen quite organically. And then as we go into year 3, we want to see ED&I linked to performance. So again, senior leaders and leaders, managers, people managers know what the employee data and the people data is for the area and use it to impact business decisions. We'll hopefully start to see recruitment decisions challenged, and that'll be again because of that awareness of unconscious bias. And then as we go through into year 4, we may start to see them targets there, and we may not. I think there'll be a few defining factors on that, and I'm sure there'll be some external factors as well. So sorry again, conscious of time, I do need to drop off now, but that's just a very high level bit of information about what we're up to. What I will do is put my email address in the chat box, and if anyone does have questions, let me know. We are of course facing challenges, as I'm sure everyone is, in the ED&I space. We're seeing resilience. We're getting that from all across the organisation. So yeah, I'd love to share some more of you, so please do get in touch. But again, sorry, I'm very conscious of time. So thank you.
Thank you, Tuesday. Danielle, I am aware that we slightly overrun already. Are you still on the call to give us a quick overview?
Yeah, still on the call. Yeah, obviously conscious of time as we have overrun, so feel free to skip this slide and my next one. So that's just an intro slide. Okay, so I'll give a brief overview of Capital Law. So Capital Law is a commercial law firm that was founded in 2006. We're an SME. We've got nearly 200 people that work for us now, more than half of which are qualified lawyers. So from our offices in Cardiff, London and Paris, we provide all the commercial legal services that an organisation might need. Just got a list on the slide there of the different services we provide and what sectors we cover. So our clients include businesses of all sizes, from startups to large corporations. We also work with a growing number of not-for-profit organisations in education and social housing, as well as with regulators and governmental bodies. As a member of several international legal networks, for example, we're part of a network called Consilegis. We often advise overseas clients and general counsels for global companies as well. Ultimately, we've got one purpose, and that is to help our clients and our community succeed. Next slide, please, Sam. So we've recently reviewed who was involved in the EDI agenda across the firm. And we've created a new EDI steering team. So you can see up on the screen there in bold, we've got the different positions that the people in the team hold across the firm. It's made up of colleagues of various levels of seniority and different departments to ensure we've got a diverse range of voices from across the firm and make sure that different opinions and backgrounds are heard from. Next slide, please. So as a firm, we have 5 key areas of work in relation to EDI. Analysing our workforce composition and ensuring recruitment is inclusive and accessible. This is ultimately owned by our HR department, but our EDI steering group will support as and when is appropriate. We are constantly reviewing our policies and processes to ensure they are accessible and inclusive as well. This is an iterative process and something that we are looking at all the time. Listening to feedback from clients and colleagues and promoting different initiatives. We've circulated an EDI survey recently, and all colleagues' input into that is essential so we can build a picture of the things we're doing well and the things which could still be improved. We've also created a dedicated EDI page on our intranet where we're gathering resources, industry updates, legal updates, and putting together a calendar of events as well to ensure that we are taking note of events that are relevant for a cross-section of people across the firm. So best practice and engaging with communities. So this involves assessing charters we want to belong to and making sure we adhere to them, and developing networks to facilitate shared learning and looking for new partnerships within community groups outside the firm as well. And finally, celebrating and raising awareness of EDI internally and externally by holding different events and attending events as well. Final slide from. So these are just a few examples of EDI within our firm. Looks like the formatting's gone slightly awry there. So we had what we call a learning lunch. So it was attended by groups, individuals, from various groups across the firm, and hosted by one of our partners with help from some of our trainees. And the learning lunch focused on disability in law. So we discussed the findings of a report called Legally Disabled, the Career Experiences of Disabled People Working in the Legal Profession. And it was an opportunity to have a discussion about that report, how the attendees felt about it, and for them to share experiences and learn from one another. The LGBT Cardiff Legal Clinic. So one of our colleagues, Garen, who's in our employment team, capital law allows him to work on ad hoc employment queries, which are lodged within this LGBTQ+ clinic. So it's essentially like a secondment, and it's all pro bono. So he just does this basically off his own back because he feels very passionately about it, and is also a member of the LGBTQ+ community. So the clinic sends us queries, and Garen provides advice essentially on whatever the queries are. Often it is people from the LGBTQ+ community who may have issues with unfair dismissal or discrimination claims and the like. Garen is a bit of a shining star within the firm actually, because he also won an award for Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Champion of the Year at the Law Society Awards recently. The next one on screen is BAME plus Friends Cardiff and District Law Society Subcommittee. So Trish D'Souza, one of our partners, is the chair of this community with a group of 6 or 7 of us at Capital supporting this. And the subcommittee meets to discuss ways of building connections and support systems for Black, Asian and ethnic minority lawyers in Cardiff. They've also hosted many coffee mornings where those lawyers have been able to build a network and support systems, and they're also planning to launch a mentoring scheme as well. Domestic abuse awareness training. So we work very closely with a charity, a homelessness charity called LAMI, and this training was rolled out to our employment team by LAMI to raise awareness of domestic abuse issues. And following the training, we then worked with Llanau to draft a domestic abuse awareness policy. And once it had been signed off internally by our employment team and by Llanau, we've then been able to sell this for clients in return to a £100 donation to Llanau as the charity. It's obviously free of charge on our end. We had compulsory EDI training across the firm last year in 2021, and we will continue to improve this and roll it out again this year. Final point on the slide is that within our EDI steering team, we've got several different subcommittees as well, one of which is the LGBTQ+ substream, which currently has a paper with our ops board to seek approval to launch a trans awareness week in mid-November this year. So we're just waiting on the outcome of that at the moment. I think that's my last slide now, Sam. Gone quite a bit over, so I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Joe and Christina, are you? I don't know what your dialogue is. Are you able to stay for a few minutes to answer a few questions?
Yeah, I can stay for a few more minutes. I'm away for a little bit.
Excellent. So, Matt, I believe we have two questions in the chat that were asked further back, but I want to interrupt the flow. So the first one is from Tony Parton. In journeys you get some things wrong, how do you deal with imperfections in the journey to allow learnings? So this is aimed at you, Joe.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent question. I mean, I think this is the type of topic where there's not necessarily always a right answer either. You know, there's going to be lots of different perspectives on how things can be done. And I think in this case, it's really, the key is to have all of those different kind of ways of listening to the people who are part of your organisation, and a place where they feel safe and they trust that what they raise is going to be listened to and understood and dealt with kind of appropriately. So building in those kind of feedback loops into the way that you work, you know, it's not just a broadcast of, you know, kind of us to the organisation of this is what you'll all do, but it's a dialogue with people through the organisation. And that can be through, like if you're a big enough organisation, through employee groups. And so people have got a place where they can collectively raise what is happening for them and their responses to what's going on. Or it can be, you know, through managers having, I guess, enough kind of skills training to really be able to have those conversations openly with their teams and building those kind of relationships. And another way is through, again, maybe for bigger organizations, if you do an anonymous engagement survey, you can ask questions, you know, about how people are perceiving what's happening and any feedback they've got or how things would be done differently. And people can be, you know, quite surprisingly open actually in those things. So you'll often hear a lot through those kind of anonymous channels too. I'd be very interested to know from any of the organisations who've shared case studies, you know, their experiences as well. So don't leave this one with just me.
Yeah, part of the reason for asking, Joe, was what I've heard is lots of successes and like a progression upwards. And from my experience in life is nothing like that. It's lots of ups and downs and 2 steps forwards, 1 step backwards, and the unconscious bias. I mean, listening to some of the things, you go, I'm doing that. I didn't realise I was doing that. And therefore, how do you address things? So you've got good intentions, but even those good intentions can be misplaced sometimes. So it is having that open and honest feedback, but
it is,
you know, it's knowing when to even open a subject. They're quite difficult. They're imposing subjects sometimes, aren't they? Where you're asking quite delicate questions sometimes.
Yeah, they can be. And that's where if you have got employee groups, you know, that can be a good forum for it when people have kind of come together because they want to be kind of sharing and supporting each other and then taking that to the organisation. You know, and if you're part of a smaller organisation and you don't have kind of organised groups like that, that's obviously a bit harder, and you need to work a bit more individually with people to create that kind of safety and that trust so that they can share, you know, when things haven't necessarily worked. And a question that or a way that people talk about this sometimes, you talked about good intentions, but the impact's not always matching the intentions. So you can kind of ask questions purposefully around that. You can maybe pose a question like, when we did this, our intention was blah, 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 but how did this actually land for you? Did it work as expected? And you can only encourage it. If people are not feeling in a place they're ready to share yet, you can create that environment, but ultimately, they have to feel ready to be able to do that and in a safe place to do it as well.
Excellent. Does anyone like to open the floor to anyone who has any questions? So if you have a question, just raise your hand in either in the chat or raise your hand for reaction.
Stephen Carr.
Stephen, would you like to go?
Hi, yeah, so I apologise, I joined a bit late because I had something else on here. So I missed the first part of Joe's presentation, but I thought it was really interesting. And I like the idea of the leaky pipeline. But it's clear there that in engineering and kind of science disciplines, there is this kind of all the way right from the very start, right from universities, there's an imbalance.
Yeah.
So when we're recruiting, we get that imbalance of people applying. And I think from employment law, we can't do positive discrimination, as in we have to treat people on merits rather than, and that causes an issue. So I wonder if there's things that we can do. Is we can try and do outreach and that kind of thing, but there's a huge societal thing, which is a massive turnaround time. But I don't know if there's advice about writing job adverts, that kind of thing, that just tries to ensure we get more of an equal balance, and whether that's something that we can be looked at. And apologies if you'd covered that and I missed it.
No, it's fine. I mean, I didn't get into any kind of real depth in what I talked about. So yes, you can do all of those things. And actually one modification I'm thinking I really want to make to my own leaky pipeline diagram is to show actually it doesn't have to be this linear pipeline. I think this kind of linear view on careers is quite restrictive actually. And looking for people from places where maybe we've not found people before. So people who are returning to work, or people who are reskilling from a different career path and have got kind of experience from an adjacent kind of area that could well transfer. I think is a really productive way actually to be finding new people to come into organisations. So it's not just about encouraging kids through school to be learning these subjects, although I think there is a place for that. We can also look a bit more broadly of who else could have relevant skills and interests to actually be looking to have a rewarding career in the type of work that we do. Some of that will be about opening their eyes to the fact it's a possibility at all, and some of it, there are people who are really very keen to be changing work and to be reskilling, and it's just getting over those hurdles to actually find their way into an organisation. So being a bit more open about what a background might actually look like, being a bit more flexible in the kind of skills profile, and what extent can people be trained on the job? Are there apprenticeships? How can we look at bringing people in a different way, and maybe from new places as well?
I think that's true. I think that may be something we as a university we don't do so much. We have strict requirements about what's required for a specific role, but maybe we could do more for kind of making that flexible in certain positions. Definitely. Good.
Yeah,
because the people, Stephen, that showed on these presentations showed percentages women broadly in line with that pipeline, Joe. So it was sort of, I was looking at it, we've started to interact with some of the programs that are interacting with school kids, basically, even at primary schools. And it just shows the fact, yes, we've got to be hitting it all the way along, haven't we? And not just at one point almost. We've got some responsibility to maybe go into schools, as Peter was saying earlier, and actually show them this is exciting. This is actually something you want to get involved with.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a long way to go, I think. But
well, there's lots to do. And as I put in my slide, it's all about understanding what's most important for you. There's only so much that we can each do at any one time. So finding, kind of where does our business want to be, and where do we want to be within the community that we're in as well, and really kind of having some shared understanding, I guess, with the leaders in the organisation of what's really important to us here. You know, where are we going to focus those kind of scarce kind of moments of attention that we have to be able to put towards it, to really make the most impact with, you know, what we do select to do.
Because coming quickly back to that leaky pipeline, if companies are set targets to go from 17% to 30% or something, almost they haven't got a cat in hell's chance, have they, in the 1-2 years? They just can't do that. This is something more fundamental that we've got to address.
It is, yeah, and I'll quite often, you know, kind of advise firms to look not just at kind of the representation numbers, because even if you started recruiting, say, at 50% women, maybe in 2 years' time that would get you from 17% to 18%. You know, it depends on what the organisation looks like. But you can start thinking about, you know, what else can we see that we can actually track that's going to show that we are making positive progress. You know, so for example, you know, what are the rates of people that we're recruiting? Have we started to even up a little bit in terms of, you know, being more representative of the population, or you know, the people that we can see are applying? You know, so there's different ways that you can look at it to tell, you know, are we actually making a difference with it?
Okay, excellent. Does anyone else have any questions for either Joe? I believe for Lydia and Tuesday have to jump off a call. Does anyone else have any questions for the case study presenters or for Joe?
I think quite a few people have had to go now, Sam, looking at it. But
okay.
I assume the slides are open to the people that have attended, are they? Or okay.
They will be. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. In that case, then thank you for attending. To those who presented, thank you for presenting. I'll stop the recording now.